Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into someone who's truly inspiring, Gregory Iron.
Really fascinating story.
He's a professional wrestler,
Right.
but with cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
And we've got some great sources for this one. We've got some YouTube interviews where he really opens up about his journey. We've got his Wikipedia page
Of course.
for all the, the hard facts and dates.
Yep.
And then a really in-depth article that really kind of gets into his mindset.
I always love those.
Yeah.
When you can really kind of get in their head.
Totally.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting about Gregory Iron's story is that he's obviously overcome a ton of adversity.
Absolutely.
But he doesn't just overcome it, he uses it.
Yeah, he embraces it.
He calls himself the handicapped hero.
I love that.
It's so smart,
Yeah.
Such
a great way to kind of turn it around,
And he even lets his opponents mock his hand during matches.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Which, in wrestling, there's this whole thing about kayfabe and you never break character.
Right.
But it's he's embracing this part of himself.
He's making it part of the show,
Totally, yeah.
It's brilliant.
It's he's flipping the script on what it means to be a wrestler.
Totally. Like I said, he's embracing it. And it's really powerful to see.
So to understand how he got to this point, this really powerful place,
Yeah.
we have to go back to the beginning.
Okay.
So Gregory Iron was born premature,
Oh, wow.
weighing only 1 pound.
Oh, my goodness.
That's tiny.
That's incredibly small.
Yeah.
So he had a rough start right from the get-go.
Yeah, so he's already facing challenges, right out of the gate.
Yeah, he's fighting from day one.
And then he's diagnosed with cerebral palsy.
Right, which affects the right side of his body.
Yeah, particularly his arm and his hand.
Yeah. So obviously, with that kind of diagnosis, he must have faced a lot of bullying growing up.
Totally. And I think, the article really gets into that.
Yeah.
And in the interviews, too, he talks about how he developed coping mechanisms, he would use humor.
Oh, that's great.
And storytelling as a shield and a way to connect with people.
It's like a defense mechanism almost,
Yeah.
Turning it into something positive.
Totally, yeah.
I love that.
So as a kid, he also discovers wrestling.
Mm.
His grandmother actually introduces him to it.
Oh, that's sweet.
And he was just hooked.
Can you imagine, as a kid who's maybe feeling a little bit different, a little bit isolated, seeing these larger-than-life characters.
Right, these superheroes almost.
Yeah, exactly. And it's I can see how that would just be, so captivating.
Totally. And in the interviews, he talks about how he just idolized these guys, like Hulk Hogan,
Yeah.
Macho Man, Randy Savage.
The classics.
Yeah, the legends.
Yeah.
And there was a wrestler named Zach Gowen, who was a one-legged wrestler in the WWE. And he talks about seeing Zach Gowen wrestle.
Yeah, that must have been a real turning point for him.
And realizing wow, if he can do it, maybe I can too.
It's like seeing someone who, looks like you or has a similar challenge that you've had, and they're out there succeeding. It's
Right.
well, why not me?
Totally.
So inspiring.
And so that kind of planted the seed, I think,
Yeah.
for Gregory Iron's own wrestling journey.
And he was, 18 when he started training?
Yeah, so at 18, he decides to, take a leap of faith.
Wow.
And he starts training to be a wrestler.
You can bet he faced some pushback, some people who doubted him
Oh, I'm sure.
because of his cerebral palsy.
Yeah, and I think he talks about that too in the interviews.
Yeah.
About how people were skeptical. It's
Yeah.
can he really do this?
He can handle this.
And he had to adapt
Right.
a lot of the wrestling moves to work with his, limited range of motion in his right side.
Yeah, he really had to kind of think outside the box, and find ways to make it work.
Yeah, he even had to come up with his own unique training methods.
Wow.
Because the conventional ones just wouldn't cut it for him.
That's incredible, though,
Yeah.
that he was able to, take that and turn it into a positive and just kind of create his own way of doing things.
Totally. And he even talks about having to deal with, grueling training environments.
Yeah, wrestling training is notoriously tough.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what it would be like for someone with cerebral palsy.
Yeah. So, he really had to push himself
Absolutely.
beyond his limits to achieve his goals.
And he did.
Yeah, and that's what's so impressive is that
Yeah.
he didn't let any of those challenges stop him.
So now let's talk about his wrestling persona, the handicap hero.
Yeah, it's so smart.
Right.
It's not just a gimmick.
No.
It's like a statement.
Yeah.
You know?
It's really powerful.
And I think it kind of subverts expectations.
Completely, because, you think of wrestling and you think of these, like, larger-than-life
Superhero.
big physiques. Yeah, exactly.
And he's coming in and saying,
Yeah.
you know what? My disability is part of who I am.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make me any less of a wrestler.
And it doesn't make me any less of a hero.
Right.
It's amazing.
And I think people really respond to that because it's authentic.
That's real.
Yeah.
And, in a world that's so obsessed with, like, physical perfection,
Yeah.
it's so refreshing to see someone embrace their imperfections and just be like, this is who I am, take it or leave it.
And he starts to gain traction in the wrestling world.
He was pretty big on the independent scene.
Yeah, he had a pretty notable feud with Johnny Gargano.
Oh, yeah. In Pro Wrestling Ohio.
In Pro Wrestling Ohio.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember watching some of those matches.
Really intense. Yeah.
And that kind of marked his rise, I think.
Yeah, put him on the map.
In the independent wrestling scene.
Really showcased his talent.
Showed that he could, hang with the best of them.
Right, that he could hold his own.
Exactly.
Against anyone.
And he didn't stop there.
No, he kept pushing.
He actually teamed up with Zach Gowen.
Oh, wow.
His childhood inspiration.
It was amazing.
The one-legged wrestler.
Yeah.
And they called themselves the Handicap Heroes.
I love it.
Which is just so cool.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just, it's not just a name. They actually achieved some, championship success.
Yeah, they won some titles.
They proved that they were a force to be reckoned with.
And I think that's so powerful because it's like they're showing that, two guys who maybe were told they couldn't do something are out there achieving their dreams together.
And proving everyone wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so inspiring.
And then this is a really big moment.
Okay, tell me.
In Gregory Iron's career, he received a public endorsement from the WWE champion at the time, CM Punk.
Oh, wow.
Back in 2011.
That's huge.
And it was this, like, really powerful moment.
For sure.
Because it was, like, validation.
Absolutely.
From someone at the very top of his field.
At the pinnacle of his career.
Yeah, recognizing Gregory Iron's talent and dedication.
So CM Punk was basically saying, like, hey, this guy's the real deal.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yeah, it was huge.
And not only that, but it brought him, national attention.
Right.
People who maybe hadn't heard of him before.
Yeah, suddenly everybody knew who Gregory Iron was.
We're suddenly like, wait, who is this guy? I got to check him out.
Yeah, it was a game changer for him.
And it speaks to, I think, the power of representation.
Absolutely.
Because, there aren't a lot of wrestlers with disabilities.
Right.
And to have someone like CM Punk, who's, a mainstream star,
right,
acknowledge and endorse someone like Gregory Iron, it sends a really powerful message about inclusion, about diversity, about, breaking down barriers.
And I think for Iron, too, it must have been,
on a personal level.
On a personal level, so validating to have...
To have someone you admire.
Someone you look up to.
Yeah, say like, hey, you're doing great.
Say, I see you. I recognize your hard work.
Yeah, that must have been amazing.
Yeah, and actually, Punk didn't just, publicly endorse him. He also,
he reached out to him.
He gave him advice.
Really?
He offered support.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Like a true mentor.
Yeah, and even years later, they had this, hilarious social media exchange.
About what?
About their favorite convenience store.
No way. Like Wawa versus Sheetz.
Wawa versus Sheetz, yeah.
That's so funny.
And it was just so funny to see that they had this, this connection.
Right.
It went beyond
just wrestling.
Yeah.
They had a genuine rapport.
Shows his humor, too.
Right. He doesn't take himself too seriously.
That he's not, he doesn't take himself too seriously.
Yeah.
He can have fun with it.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened next?
So as his career progressed, he starts to realize that that his story, his message, could have an impact beyond wrestling.
Yeah.
And he starts to get into motivational speaking.
That makes sense.
And he starts speaking at schools, and events, and sharing his message of resilience, perseverance, and embracing your differences.
And I bet that resonates with people.
Oh, yeah.
Especially young people.
Yeah,
who are maybe facing their own challenges.
Yeah, and I think what's so cool is that he's not afraid to be vulnerable in these speeches. He
opens up about his own struggles.
He talks about the challenges he's faced. And
that makes him relatable.
It makes him relatable.
And human.
Yeah, and I think that's what people connect with.
Totally. He's not just some, untouchable figure giving advice.
Right.
He's someone who's been there, who's gone through it,
Yeah.
and come out the other side.
And it's really powerful to say.
Inspiring. So what about his personal life?
So in the article and in some of the interviews, he's really open about his difficult childhood. He talks about how he grew up in an abusive home.
Oh, wow.
And
that must have been incredibly tough.
And the emotional toll of living with a disability.
Yeah. To deal with both of those things at the same time.
And so I think it kind of adds another layer of complexity
definitely.
to his story.
It makes you realize, the resilience that he's had to develop
and
overcome those challenges.
Yeah, and it reminds us that, resilience is often born out of navigating some pretty dark times.
Right. It's not always easy.
It's not a straight path to success or happiness.
Yeah. And it raises the question, how do we find healthy coping mechanisms when we're facing adversity?
When we're facing those dark times.
Like, what can we learn from Gregory Iron's story about, finding ways to cope with those challenges?
And I think for him, wrestling was a huge part of that.
Yeah.
It was
an outlet.
An outlet, a way to channel his
frustration, his anger,
his frustration, his energy into something positive.
Into something productive.
And that's so important.
That's a really important message for anyone who's struggling.
And
to find their own outlet.
Yeah, to find something that
they can pour their energy into.
Helps them cope.
That makes them feel good.
With the challenges that they're facing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the CM Punk endorsement.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of go back to that.
Okay.
Because I think it's such a pivotal moment in his career. And he's talked about it as being like life-changing, not just for his career, but for him personally.
Yeah.
It was this moment of validation after years of struggle and rejection.
Of being told he couldn't do it.
Exactly.
Of people doubting him.
Yeah. And then to have someone like CM Punk, who's, this icon.
At the top of this game.
Say, hey, you're doing great. Keep going.
It must have been.
That must have been incredible.
Yeah. And he actually talks about how he had just lost his job.
Oh, wow.
Before that endorsement.
Yeah. So he was at a low point.
He was. Yeah. He was at a low point.
And then this happens.
And he was like questioning whether he should keep pursuing wrestling.
Right.
And then this endorsement comes through.
Like a sign from the universe.
Yeah. And he's like, okay, this is a sign. I need to keep going.
Got to keep going.
And that's the power of, I think, human connection.
Yeah.
Because sometimes all it takes is one person.
To say, hey, I believe in you. Yeah. To give you that push you need.
To give you that little boost.
To keep going.
Yeah. And I think it's a good reminder for all of us.
For sure.
That we can all be that person for someone else.
We can all make a difference in someone's life.
With just a few words of encouragement.
Just a little bit of support.
Or a helping hand.
Yeah.
It can go a long way.
And so, I think that CM Punk endorsement was just...
Yeah, it was a turning point in his career.
Yeah, for him.
And maybe even in his life.
Yeah, and so...
So what do you think is next for Gregory Iron?
Well, he's still wrestling.
That's awesome.
He's still doing motivational speaking.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a podcast.
Oh, cool.
Called Iron on Wrestling.
Catchy.
Yeah, it's great.
I like that. So he's keeping busy.
Yeah, he's really made a name for himself, and I think he's just continuing to
inspire people
and to challenge perceptions and to prove that anything is possible.
Anything is possible if you set your mind to it.
Exactly.
And you're willing to put in the work.
And you never give up. That's the key.
And so I'm excited to see what he does next.
Me too. He's a fascinating guy.
Yeah, he's a real inspiration.
Absolutely. It really is inspiring, his whole story.
Yeah, and he's not afraid to talk about the tough stuff either.
Yeah, he's really open about his childhood and all the challenges he's faced.
Yeah, he talks about the bullying he went through.
Right.
Because of his cerebral palsy.
Yeah, and that's something that, unfortunately, a lot of people with disabilities can relate to.
Yeah, and he also talks about growing up in an abusive home.
Wow.
Which,
that's a lot to deal with.
That's a whole other layer of trauma and adversity.
Especially as a kid, yeah.
And I think it's a reminder that, resilience isn't always pretty.
No.
It's
forged in the fire.
Forged in these really difficult experiences.
Yeah.
And I think, by sharing those experiences, he's creating a space
Absolutely.
for other people to feel less alone.
Totally.
In their own struggles.
It's like he's saying, hey, I've been there.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
You're not alone, and you can get through this.
To not be okay.
Yeah.
You know?
It's so powerful.
Which I think is really important.
So we talked about his partnership with Zach Gowen, Handicapped Heroes, but that wasn't his first foray into tag team wrestling.
Oh, really?
Did you know that?
No, tell me.
He actually had a tag team before that with a wrestler named Hobo Joe.
Hobo Joe.
And they were called
a name.
I know, right?
Yeah.
The Homeless Handicapped Connection.
Wow.
Which again, playing with those wrestling tropes.
Stereotypes, subverting expectations.
Yeah, and it's funny, it's edgy.
Yeah.
It's
clever.
It's clever, yeah.
But it also has a message.
No, totally.
You know.
And I think that's what's so cool about him is that he's able to do both.
Yeah.
He's able to entertain.
Absolutely.
But also like
and make you think. At the same time.
Yeah.
And challenge your perceptions.
Yeah, and both of those tag teams, you know, with Hobo Joe and with Zach Gowen, it's like
they're showing the world that people with disabilities can
not only compete,
but they can excel
in
professional wrestling.
And they did.
Yeah, I mean, they won championships.
They won as a team,
which is just
it's incredible, and it sends such a powerful message about inclusivity, about teamwork, about breaking down barriers. Yeah, it's amazing.
And so, you know, we've talked about his wrestling.
Yeah.
But he's also really passionate about motivational speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like that's become...
Yeah, it's like a second calling for him.
A really big part of his life.
Almost.
And what's so interesting is that he's not just, you know, talking about wrestling.
Yeah.
He's talking about, you know...
life lessons, overcoming adversity.
Finding your purpose.
Finding your purpose.
Embracing your uniqueness.
Embracing your uniqueness.
And I think that really resonates with people.
Yeah, because it's something that we all...
Absolutely. We all face challenges. Yeah. We all have our own unique journeys.
Yeah.
And to hear someone like Gregory Iron, who's overcome so much.
Talk about those things. It's really inspiring.
And in a way that's engaging and relatable.
He's really good at connecting with people.
Yeah, he's a natural storyteller.
He's got that charisma, that stage presence.
Yeah.
That draws people in.
Talks a lot about finding your why, which is like...
your purpose.
Your purpose.
Or your reason for being.
Your reason for being.
What gets you out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, and he talks about how his own why has evolved over time, right?
Yeah.
It started out as...
proving people wrong. Yeah.
Showing that he could do it.
That he wasn't limited by his disability.
Despite his disability.
Exactly.
But then it shifted to something more about inspiring others.
About making a difference.
Making a difference.
Yeah, about giving back.
Yeah. And I
think that's a journey that a lot of people can relate to.
That's a really powerful message.
That's right. Not just about, you know,
personal success.
Achieving success.
It's about finding something that's bigger than yourself.
Like gives your life meaning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that makes you feel like you're contributing.
That you're making a contribution
to something bigger.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think, you know, he's a living example of...
He is. He's walking the walk. He's not just talking the talk.
He's living his message.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Which is, I think, what makes him so inspiring.
So authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he could easily just, you know, give these speeches.
Yeah.
And then go home and live a completely different life.
Right.
But he's not. He's actually embodying his message and everything he does. And that's what people really connect with.
That's what makes him so powerful.
Absolutely.
So we talked about the CM Punk endorsement a little bit earlier.
Right.
But I think it's worth revisiting.
I agree.
Because it was just such a pivotal moment.
Yeah, it was a game changer.
In his career.
For sure.
And it wasn't just about, you know, getting a shout out from a famous wrestler.
Right.
It was about...
validation.
For years of hard work.
Work and dedication.
Yeah. It was like, finally someone sees me.
He talks about how... you know, the timing couldn't have been more perfect.
Right. He had just lost his job.
Because he just lost his job.
He was feeling discouraged.
He was feeling really down. And then he gets this endorsement. CM Punk comes in.
And said, hey, you're awesome. This is a sign.
I need to keep going.
And I love that. It's like
it just speaks to the power of
his mentorship.
Yeah. Someone who believes in you. Yeah.
And
how someone who sees your potential.
Sometimes you just need that.
Even when you don't see it yourself.
That one person.
Yeah.
To believe in you.
To give you that push.
To give you that push.
You know, and it's a good reminder.
It's a good reminder for all of us.
Yeah.
That we can all
be that person.
To someone else.
You're someone else.
Yeah. You don't have to be famous.
You don't have to be a WWE champion. To make a difference in someone's life.
To make a difference.
Yeah.
Sometimes all it takes is
just a few words.
A few words of encouragement.
Or a helping hand.
Or just being there to listen.
To show someone that you care.
To show that you care.
And that you believe in them.
Yeah.
It can go a long way.
It can make a huge difference.
So,
yeah, the CM Punk endorsement was...
It was a turning point. Huge. For Gregory. And it just shows the power of
human connection.
Human connection and believing in each other.
Absolutely.
And supporting each other.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we can all
learn from.
From
Gregory Iron's story.
And
apply to our own lives.
Yeah. So you know, we've talked a lot about his journey and the challenges he's faced.
Right.
But one thing that I think is really remarkable is
his adaptability.
His ability to adapt.
Right.
He's had to adapt.
Wrestling moves.
Training techniques. His mindset to overcome the challenges he's faced. And he's done it brilliantly.
Yeah.
He's a master of...
He's like turning limitations into strength.
Find his strength.
You know, he doesn't let obstacles define him. He finds creative ways.
He finds ways to work around them.
To
achieve his goals.
I
really think that's
such an important skill.
Such an important
Yes. Not just in wrestling.
For all of us.
But in everything we do.
Yeah.
You know, because we all face challenges.
We all face obstacles.
We all have setbacks. And it's how we respond to those challenges.
Really
define.
That determines whether we succeed or not.
Whether we give up or we keep going.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, Gregory Iron's story is a great reminder that
we all have that
capacity to adapt, to be resilient, to find creative solutions,
to be resourceful,
and to never give up.
And to never give up on our dreams. No matter what challenges we face.
Yeah, no matter. All right. And, you know, speaking of never giving up, that's another thing that really stands out about Gregory Iron.
Gregory Iron is
his persistence.
I
mean, this guy... Yeah. He faced rejection.
Faced so much.
He faced skepticism. He faced physical limitations, doubt, and he never gave up. He never let it stop him.
Gave up.
He just kept pushing forward. He's the definition of never give up.
The embodiment of never give up.
And I think that's so important. Because it's easy to get discouraged.
Because life is hard.
You know? It throws us curveballs.
It's going to throw us curveballs.
It throws us challenges.
And it's easy to...
And it's easy to want to give up.
Want to just throw in the towel.
So sometimes, but...
Gregory Iron shows
us that it's possible.
It's possible to keep going. To keep going.
Even when it's tough.
Even when it's really tough.
Even when you feel like you have nothing left.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's such a powerful message for all of us, because we all
need that reminder sometimes.
That
it's okay to struggle.
It's okay to struggle.
It's okay to fall down.
It's okay.
But it's not okay to stay down.
Not to stay down.
Yeah.
You know?
You got to get back up.
You got to get back up.
You got to keep pushing forward.
You got to keep fighting.
And that's what Gregory Iron has done his entire life.
And
it's why he's such an inspiration.
What makes him
such an inspiration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've talked about his persona, the handicapped hero, which is, you know,
so clever.
It's brilliant. It's subversive. It's everything.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
It challenges perceptions.
It challenges stereotypes. It's entertaining.
It's
everything you want in a wrestling persona.
It's the whole package.
Right. But it's important to remember that that's just a persona. It's a character that he plays in the ring, you know? There's a real person behind that mask.
Gregory Iron. The man.
You know? And we've touched on his
love of wrestling horror movies.
Pop punk music.
Pop punk music, but I'm kind of curious to learn more about
dive a little deeper.
What makes him tick
into who he is,
he is
outside of the ring.
Yeah.
What are his passions? What are his interests?
What drives him?
What are his values?
Yeah,
like what makes Gregory Iron?
What makes him tick? You know?
Yeah.
And I think from what we've gathered,
he seems like a really
he's a deep thinker.
Yeah.
He's someone who's constantly reflecting on his experiences, trying to make sense of the world around him.
He's also incredibly compassionate.
He's dedicated to using his platform to make a positive impact on
that difference. And it's clear that he's driven by something bigger than himself.
You know?
It's not about fame.
It's not about money. It's about making a difference.
Yeah.
About connecting with people.
About leaving the world a better place.
About leaving the world
and he found it.
A better place.
And I think
that's really admirable.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we can all
aspire to.
You know, to find that
purpose
that drives
drives us to
make a positive impact
on the world. Yeah, make a positive impact on the world.
Yeah.
And
sometimes we continue to
Rick and now deep dive into Gregory Iron's story.
Gregory Iron's world.
I think I want to kind of shift our focus a little bit to his evolution as a storyteller.
Storytelling.
Because we've seen how he uses wrestling, motivational speaking,
podcasting to connect with people.
To connect with audiences.
And share his message. And I think he's become really good at it.
I'm curious to explore
what makes his storytelling so effective.
What are the elements that make his stories so compelling and so relatable? And I think one of the things that really stands out to me is his willingness to be vulnerable.
Yeah, totally.
He doesn't shy away from sharing his struggles,
to be real,
his doubts, his fears, and I think that's what makes him so relatable.
But I think that's what makes him
allows people to connect with him on a deeper level.
Because it's like he's giving us permission.
He's saying, "Hey, it's okay to not be perfect.
To be imperfect.
It's okay to have struggles.
To embrace our vulnerability.
Or to recognize.
Because strength and light doesn't always mean. We all have our own stuff.
Hiding our weaknesses.
And it's okay to talk about it.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's a really powerful message, especially in today's world when everyone's trying to present this perfect image.
Where everything's so curated.
On social media.
You know?
It's
nice to see someone.
It's just real and authentic. It's like fake.
And I think that resonates with people. Because we're all tired.
Yeah, we all crave authenticity.
Yeah, we want to see real people.
We want to see real people.
With real stories.
The real struggles.
And I think Gregory Iron does a great job of that.
He does.
Yeah.
And he also
has this ability to find humor in unexpected places. Humor.
And the darkest of adversity.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He's got this self-deprecating humor that just disarms you.
And it creates this sense of connection and shared humanity.
Reminding us to
we're all in this together.
Not take ourselves too seriously.
You know, life is too short to be so serious all the time.
Be so serious all the time.
You gotta find the humor.
Find the humor in things.
You gotta laugh at yourself.
Laugh at yourself.
You gotta find the joy.
Find the joy in the little things.
And I think Gregory Iron does a great job of that.
He does.
Yeah. And his storytelling is always authentic.
It's authentic.
It's rooted in his own lived experience.
It's rooted in his own experiences, his own struggles. Host speaker.
It's so true. And I think, going back to what we were talking about earlier, about his message of resilience.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from his story.
Absolutely.
Resilience
is not something you're just born with.
Yeah.
It's something you have to work at.
You have to cultivate it.
You have to develop.
Yeah.
And it's a process.
It's a muscle.
It's a muscle, exactly.
You have to,
keep working it out.
To make it stronger.
And Gregory Iron.
And Gregory Iron is a perfect example of that.
Is a perfect example of someone who's...
He wasn't just born resilient.
Built that resilience.
He had to go through some really tough stuff.
Yeah.
To develop that resilience.
And he's shown us that.
And he's shown us that it's possible to bounce back from those setbacks.
Yeah, to find strength in
adversity.
To never give up on your dreams.
And to never give up.
No matter what.
And to do it.
No matter what life throws at you.
With a smile.
Right, with a sense of humor.
With a sense of humor.
A positive attitude.
And with, a real desire to...
Yeah, he's not just in it for himself.
Like a positive impact on the world.
He wants to make a difference.
I think that's something we can all learn from.
I think that's one of the inspiring things about him.
Achieving personal success, it's about using your platform to lift others up.
And your heart's about.
To make the world a better place.
And friends, and I think we need more people like that.
Absolutely we do.
In the world.
We need more people who are willing to use their voice.
Who are willing to stand up.
To fight for what's right. To challenge the status quo.
What I believe in. To stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves.
And this is...
And I think Gregory Iron is a shining example of that.
And I think that's something that
his story inspires other people
who do the
same his story.
Yeah.
To find their own voice.
And, you know, he's also shown us the importance of finding our why.
Right, our purpose. And, you know, it might evolve over time.
It might not be something you
discover right away.
Driving force behind your actions can make all the difference.
You find it.
And how you approach challenges. And how you define success.
It can really change your whole perspective.
I think it's important to take some time to reflect on what's important to you.
Finding your purpose.
What
goals are.
Aligning your...
And to make sure that your actions are aligned with those values.
Yeah.
You have to walk the walk.
You can't just talk the talk.
Yeah.
You have to actually live it.
And Gregory Iron.
And I think Gregory Iron does a great job of that.
Is a great example of that.
He's not just talking about resilience.
Inclusivity. He's actually...
living it
every single day.
And
that's what makes him so authentic.
That's what makes him so
relatable.
Real and so relatable.
It's so inspiring.
Yeah.
Because he's not just like
speaking of
go. Dig your head.
His motivational speaking is a really person
example
who's been through real struggles
and
come out the other side
using his better
in the world.
That's something we can all learn from.
Yeah. He's not just, you know, delivering these...
You don't have to be perfect to make a difference. We don't have to have all the answers.
Really connecting with people.
We just have to be willing to be ourselves, to be vulnerable, to be real, and to connect with people.
Vulnerability on a human level.
Yeah, and he's creating a space.
That's what Gregory Iron does so well. And that's what makes him so inspiring.
He feels seen and heard.
And I think that's a great message.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes him so powerful.
Find your why.
Yeah.
Embrace your uniqueness.
What's so cool about his approach?
He doesn't. Use your voice to make a difference in the world.
He doesn't.
Shy away no matter what from these. So thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Difficult topics into the life and career of Gregory Iron.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
He talks openly about
exploring his story with you.
His experiences with bullying, abuse, and the emotional toll of living with a disability.
Until next time.
Keep diving deep.
I think by being so vulnerable, he creates a space for others to open up and to realize that they're not alone in their struggles. And I think that's incredibly powerful and inspiring. To see someone embrace their imperfections and use them to empower others. And it's a reminder that strength doesn't always, putting on a brave face. True strength comes from acknowledging our vulnerabilities, seeking support when we need it.
Yeah.
Using our experiences to help others. So I think it's a really important message for all of us to remember.